Hi folks, welcome to Coffee and Colossians on Wednesday. Beautiful day here again. Yesterday I had the enormous privilege of going to Balmoral Beach and getting a swim there, although the water was freezing and everyone thought I was mad, but it's just wonderful being able to do that. And wonderful to be able to look again at this question of telling the good news, which is what evangelism is, and how we communicate the good news to people. Now, bear with me today, it might be a little bit longer than usual because I want to test a theory on you or an idea on you. But we look first of all at this passage, verse 6 is what we're looking at. So we saw the last two times, the first principle we saw of evangelism was to be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. The second is to make the most of every opportunity. And the third is to let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Now, our speech is to be gracious, not abusive or vindictive speech. And I think that is very important. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 24 says this: "The Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. Opponents must be gently instructed in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading them to a knowledge of the truth." And I think you're talking about speech, your conversation, although conversation here means more than just speech. It's your whole manner and demeanor and your lifestyle and your walk with God. And I think it's, for me, this is very challenging to me as well. And there's many times I have not fulfilled this, I know that. But I think it's a case of stop moaning, gossiping, complaining. Be truthful and loving. Speak the truth in love. Live in grace. Grasp grace. Understand grace. Now, gracious words can be insipid and dull. So seasoning is mentioned here, salt. And that gives this idea of your speech being interesting and lively and colourful. So I'll give you an example. At the prayer breakfast in the House of Commons one time, the speaker was asked, "When did you last meet with the Lord?" Was that courageous witness? Was it wise witness? Was it gracious witness? Was it courteous, or was it arrogant? Our speech has to be interesting and not bland, humble and not proud, thoughtful and not superficial. There is a danger that we can be superior, boring, and unable to listen to. Now, as someone who speaks for a living, obviously I'm opening myself to many accusations, and I suspect that many of them will be true. We really need to be gracious, stimulating, and deep. For that we need prayer, acknowledging our own weakness, love for those we speak to, and the knowledge of God. T.S. Eliot, in his poem Choruses from the Rock, says, "Take no thought of the harvest, but only of proper sowing." And notice he says, you've got to answer everyone. Well, if you're going to answer everyone, you need to know the rudiments of your faith. Now, this is not saying there is one answer for everyone, but that we need to relate to and treat everyone as an individual, to give appropriate words for them. As a Christian, you are not a computer program, you are not a call center. It's why I'm so wary of all the training programs about evangelism. I really am wary. I don't know. Okay, here's the idea I have. Look, the model for evangelism is not the commercial marketplace as though we're selling a product. Oh, beg your pardon, excuse me. Let me mention it this way. Let me call it this. Shopping mall evangelism. This is where people jump at you from the stalls and try and sell you jewelry for your wife, a beauty product, or a walking toy dog. That's where people jump out at you and try to witness. There's what I would call supermarket evangelism, where people want you to come in and get their goods. Well, you can get small and you can get mega store. Maybe that's a bit like the church. There's what I would have called Woolworths evangelism back in the UK, where Woolworths was, remember, pick and mix. It's now bankrupt. Woolworths here is just a grocery store. But the whole pick and mix evangelism, home evangelism, friendship evangelism, where that's a bit like where people invite you to a party at their home and then try and sell you Tupperware or wine or something. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do any of these things. I'm just saying as a methodology, we need to be very careful. I think these things should almost happen naturally. There's what I call concert hall evangelism, where you have this big entertainment and almost like a drama where product placement is done and where adverts are done throughout the drama. And then there's another one I call Mars bar evangelism, which is kind of like handing out a sweet and saying to people, look, we're being really kind to you, so you should become a Christian. But of all the analogies used, I think wedding evangelism is the best. Now, what do we mean by that? The Spirit and the bride say, come. The bride is the church. Come and get married. Come and celebrate. Come to Jesus. That's not selling something. That's not what I call religious prostitution. It's what I would call the responsive relational model. It's where people come and ask you. My mother and father, my mother still does, has eggs at Port Mahomack, and they never advertised, but people came from all around to get them because they were so good. The product itself is so attractive that it's its own advert. It's kind of like viral advertising. People want it because it's so good and because it meets a real need. We're not selling something, we're a starving beggar who's found food and is trying to share that with others because the love of Christ compels us. It's relational because it is like someone who gets married. Or maybe you've just had a baby. you just want to tell people. It's the right word to the right person at the right time. And that's why we need prayer at the Spirit. That's why we need Christ to help us. That's why Luke 21:14, make up your mind not to worry beforehand how you defend yourselves, for I will give you words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. Does it work? Yes. Is there opposition? Yes. Is it always successful? No. Not in the sense that we might think. But evangelism is basically us being so in love with Christ, so filled with the love of Christ, so absorbed by his beauty, and so concerned for our fellow human beings that we want to share this great news. All right, sorry, that's long enough. I told you it'd be a wee bit longer. We'll leave it there. That's past 3 days we've been looking at evangelism. We shall go on tomorrow to Tychicus. God bless you and see you then. Bye.